Hello and welcome to the John Ark Show. This episode is called Detroit Criminals Are Afraid to Riot. Before we begin, I want to encourage you to subscribe, like, comment, and follow us. Also, I'd like to tell you about a service called HollywoodIsCalling.com. It's a great service that allows you to purchase live phone calls from your favorite celebrities, so check it out. There are more than 100 celebrities to choose from. You can purchase a live 15-second call for $19.95, or you can purchase a live 30-second call for $29.95. You can have the celebrities call your friends, as birthday gifts or holiday gifts. You can have your favorite celebrity call you and chat with you live briefly, or you can send their message directly to voicemail and then play it back for all your friends to see. It's a really cool gift getting a call from a celebrity. So give it a try. HollywoodIsCalling.com. Now, let's get started. People are watching all the rioting going on in major cities over the last few months, and we made a really interesting observation. Why does there not appear to be any criminal rioting going on in the city of Detroit? After all, in 1967, Detroit had such a violent riot that they had to bring in the military to restore law and order. They were among the most violent and destructive riots in U.S. history. By the time the rioting had ended, 43 people were dead, 342 injured, and nearly 1,400 buildings had been burnt to the ground. Also, they had to send in more than 8,000 National Guards and U.S. Army troops to have this all brought to an end. The 67 riots, also known as the 12th Street Riot, was the bloodiest incident in the summer of 1967. It was mainly a lot of confrontations between African American residents and the Detroit Police Department. News reports suggest that the immediate cause of the riot was a police raid at an illegal after-hours drinking club that was hosting the party for two returning Vietnam vets coming back from the war. The police arrested all the patrons at that party. Local residents who witnessed the raid protested, and several of them vandalized property and started fires. Police responded by blockading the surrounding neighborhood, but outraged local residents drove through the blockades. The protests and the violence spread to other areas of the city. During the next several days, thousands of military were brought in along with the state police to deal with it. They had to bring in more than 800 Michigan State troopers. On the second day of the riot, President Johnson sent U.S. Army troops to the city to help quell the violence. Now, the cause of the riots were high levels of frustration, resentment, and anger that had been created amongst the African American population because of all the unemployment, discrimination, and police brutality. Also, a big part of it was the absence of economic and educational opportunities. Now, deindustrialization in the city had resulted in the loss of industrial jobs, and the replacement was low-paying service jobs that nobody could survive on. When the riot finally ended, there was a tremendous amount of damage done to the city by the crime, the looting, and lots of arson. Many of the problems the residents complained about went unchanged after the riot. Now, we fast forward to 2020, where we have rioting taking place in a lot of other cities. The looting, vandalism, burglary, and arson that is taking place is extremely damaging and is causing a lot of people to move out of their cities. We evaluated what's going on, and it appears as though the nationwide rioting is more organized and better funded than previous riots. But if you look at the charts, you notice something unusual. The one city that had the most violent riot back in '67 has had 0 riots now. When you study the situation with an objective view, you have to ask yourself, what's different about Detroit? Why aren't criminals rioting and looting and burning things down there? The answer appears to be the policies of the mayor and the police chief not to tolerate any crime and to immediately arrest anybody who gets out of line. Most importantly, the prosecutors in Detroit are actually charging the criminals who are brought in by the police and putting them into the system. Not only that, but the prosecutors and the feds are quick to bring federal charges against criminals, and federal charges mean really long prison sentences in very tough federal prisons. Generally speaking, prisoners in the federal system do not get out early for parole, so there's no early release program for them. Whatever time you've been sentenced to, that is the time you will end up doing, and most criminals know that. Kwame Kilpatrick, the previous mayor of Detroit, is still sitting in prison despite his attempts to get released early. However, there have been exceptions. Some prisoners have been let out recently because of the health issues, but generally speaking, that doesn't happen under normal circumstances. So what does it mean? It means that in general, criminals are very reluctant to commit crimes like looting, arson, vandalism, and rioting in Detroit because they know it can mean really long prison sentences. They also know that Mayor Mike Duggan and Police Chief James Craig are not about to turn a blind eye to criminal rioting just to appease some political groups. In addition to that, they're not going to allow the police in Detroit to be defunded. There have been numerous attempts to defund the police recently in Detroit, but they have all failed because the mayor and the police chief do not agree with it, and because the residents of Detroit don't want it. The residents of a number of major cities are against defunding their police, but their politicians are turning a blind eye and a deaf ear to what the residents want, and they're defunding the police anyways. In a lot of those cities, the crime rates have skyrocketed, and it's causing major damage and harm to the residents. It's also damaging the property, the tax base, and the city as a whole. In a highly ironic twist, the mayors of some of the cities that have deliberately allowed the rioters to destroy their towns have themselves been attacked so severely that they've had to publicly flee their own homes in their own hometowns and quickly move to a hidden location outside of their city and away from their home. It's also doing something else really interesting. Cities that have already defunded the police or are planning to do so are finding out that their insurance companies are canceling their insurance because they say without police protection, the risk to them of insuring their city is just astronomical. This is something those cities never anticipated or planned for, and it's causing horrific legal, financial, and administrative problems for those cities. It's also making it more difficult for them to raise money in the debt market. So what are these criminals doing in the near future? Well, we forecast that they will avoid engaging in crime in Detroit and move to other cities where they can riot without fear of being arrested or prosecuted. Not only that, but engaging in criminal activity in other cities can be much more lucrative when you know you're not going to be arrested, end up sitting in jail, or you need to spend a lot of money on a lawyer. Here's something else we have to compliment the mayor and police chief in Detroit for. Not only are they enforcing the laws and arresting criminals who want to riot, but they're not afraid to go on TV and tell potential rioters that they will be arrested if they engage in criminal activity. Doing that proves that these men are both willing to enforce the law and have the strength of character and integrity to publicly let everyone know they will enforce the law regardless of what certain political groups want them to do. We predict that both the mayor and the police chief will keep their jobs for quite a while, and the citizens of Detroit will be glad to have them. Thank you for watching, and we will talk to you soon.